Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Horror Hour TV.
We all go a little mad sometimes. Get you Here's Johnny.
Hello and welcome to The Horror Hour, the show where we discuss, debate, and disagree on all things horror. We are your hosts, Ben, George,
Hi.
and Yutaka.
Hello.
And this week is exciting because each of us will be talking to you about our top 3 favorite horror movies. We'll talk about why we love them, what they mean to us, and why you should watch them if you haven't already. We will also be making some honourable mentions for our top 3 that didn't quite make it, so please stick around for those as well. So with that being said, will we jump right in?
Yes, let's do it. I'm excited because I don't know anyone's. Well, I don't think I do anyway. I could probably guess.
I will say, because Ben, I told him I'm going to make a prediction. We're all going to have at least one in common. You're going to make me roll my eyes. And
but you always roll your eyes at good things. You roll your eyes at good things, though. Like, it's really irritating.
And George is going to have some random one we've never heard of.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel like that's going to happen.
Definitely.
He didn't make a prediction because he thought that would happen. He made a prediction because he knows all of these things are going to happen. George said he had one that none of us will know. Yutaka has seen my list. He knows he's going to roll his eyes. He's not. I
knew before I saw your list.
He's just trying to come across as smarter on the podcast. So you believe him when he tries to discredit my list. Don't listen to him.
I said this before we even recorded, so
I'm sure you did, Yutaka.
George, you can. George,
I'm not getting involved, guys. I'm just sitting on the sidelines.
I think will we go honorable mentions for everyone, then number 3 for everyone, number 2, and then number 1?
Yeah,
I think so.
Good. Yeah, cool.
Well, I have 2 honorable mentions, and these 2 films are films that I watch every October. One is pretty obviously why you should watch it in October. Another one is just it gets me in the mood. And they're both pretty important to the horror genre as a whole, and I don't think that the slasher genre would be what they were without Scream and Halloween. You have Wes Craven operating at the complete top of his game with Scream. The script for that film is incredible. The visuals, it's very simply shot, but I think simple goes a long way. And it's pretty stunning. Particularly the shots of the sunset in that movie really, really do get me. The atmosphere in Scream is incredible. No sequel ever managed to get what they captured in the first film. And it's kind of the same with Halloween. It's John Carpenter doing an incredible job on such a very small budget with such a small cast. And they still managed to create a film that, even though it was shot in March, feels like October every single year.
I am not rolling my eyes at those 2, Ben, because I like both those choices. I'm mad that they're in your honorable mentions, but hey.
I don't want to have a crossover with you because then my list would be more basic. And I kind of have that.
To be honest, I was expecting Halloween to be in your top 3, so that's right. So that's made me even more intrigued to know what your top 3 will be. But yeah, I like, that's the thing, because it's like, and like we say, we're not saying what the best horror movies are. We're just talking about our personal favorites, about what we enjoy to watch.
Well, George, since you're talking about honorable mentions, why don't you go ahead and give us yours? I
will. So I had about 6 honorable mentions, and I'm only going to take it down to 2 because I had so many, and I was like, because I just I found it really difficult to make the top
3. Give us 6.
I would like to hear these.
Okay, so you're going to find out with a lot of these films, and also just leak into my top 3. There is one genre that a lot of people hate, and it is I love it, and that is
torture porn.
No, it's found footage. It's found footage, and I know a lot of people don't like it. They think it's cheap. They think it's stupid, but there's something about a really good found footage film that I think is just the best. So I'm going to keep on that track first for a couple of these mentions. So there are 3 here in my 6 that are found footage. And I would be surprised if any of you have heard of these films, but please, if you have, take me down. You might. So the first one is The Taking of Deborah Logan. This is Yutaka?
I have seen that.
Okay, good. That was the one I thought people would have seen out of all of them.
That's a good one.
It's a really good one. So obviously, I don't want to give any spoilers away for any of these because, of course, we want you to watch them. But the basis of this film is that it's a documentary of, I believe they're like college, university students who are wanting to show the process and journey of somebody who has dementia and Alzheimer's. And, it starts off like a documentary showing this lady's journey and how she's coping with it and how her daughter's coping with it. But things aren't all they seem. And there is a really good story to it, and there's a really good backstory. And actually, I was like, wow, this went into a lot more depth and there's a lot more story than I imagined in the first place. And so I really, really enjoy that film. So that's The Taking of Deborah Logan. I think that is on Amazon Prime. It's definitely on Netflix. Again, I'm talking from the UK, guys, so it might be different wherever you are, but it's definitely on Netflix. So I definitely recommend that one. Next up, we have The Last Horror Movie. Now, this is a found footage film from 2003. It's a British film. It was made 2003. It's a Welsh director. It's one of the, I think it made, for when it came out, it probably would have been a bit more creepy. The basis of the story is that you watch the film and at first it's like an American slasher film, and suddenly it cuts out and you have this guy talking and he's like, I saw you pick this up out of the video store, hello. And basically it's supposed to be, he is a serial killer. It's another British film. He's a serial killer and he records his murders. And you are an accomplice to those murders by watching them. And it is really good. It's dead, like gritty, and it in that sense, I mean, like it's like bad quality in terms of the way it's shot and things, but I mean, makes you give you that more realistic thing. Because I watched it with my friend. I knew that I'd already seen it before, but my friend hadn't, and I was like, "Oh yeah, it's this really cool film, it's like this slasher film set in America. I've heard about it." And then when I made them watch the film and that bit happened, I was like, "Wait, hang on, what's happening?" Let's give it a little bit extra. But that's another great film. These are short films. I think that's like an hour and 20 minutes. It's really short, but it's really good. And it's got a cool little ending as well. So yeah. And then the third one of my found footage films here is Exhibit A. This is 2007. This is another British found footage film. I don't know if I would class this as horror, but the ending hooked me up for life because it was so realistic. Again, not giving too much away, it is a film about a young girl who's just got her new camcorder, obviously the way a lot of found footage things start, and she's filming her family and what's going on in their life, and her dad's trying to get this promotion, and the mum wants to move house, and there is no, scary, weird girls crawling out of TVs, there is no people in masks, it is just very real, and what unfolds and you see what happens in this family to what happens at the very end, you're like, oh my god. So I don't want to give too much away, but to me, I think it's classed as a psychological thriller. I would not, because the ending, as I said, to me was like, I felt sick after the ending. So I would definitely recommend that. It's called Exhibit A. I think there's like 2 films called Exhibit A. Just type in found footage or 2007. It's on Amazon Prime. It's included in Prime. So I'd recommend that as well.
It's included in Prime for you guys. I'm gonna rent this, but
okay. I think it's cheap. It should
be. It is,
yeah.
It's only $1.99. So yeah,
exactly. Definitely recommend it. Okay, there's the found footage. Then we're moving on to non-found footage films. Ghost Ship. Ghost Ship was the first horror film I ever watched. And for me, that's why it was close to being in my top 3, but I was like, there's films I prefer more, but this one I wanted to put in because it's just like a nostalgic thing for me. I think it's such a great film, and that opening scene, for those of you who know, is just like insane. So Ghost Ship had to be in there. I remember I think somebody had it on DVD. It was DVD, it wasn't video. And it was definitely, I remember it must have been 2003 because I watched it, and then my mum was like, no. She let me watch it. Then she was like, no, you can't watch this anymore. And And then I remember we were in America, and I was in Florida, and we were in it's just a random fun fact. The shop was called Eckerd. Thank you for shopping at Eckerd. Have a nice day. Because they're all like, over the top. And I remember seeing the DVD there, and I was like, oh my God, I really want to get it. But Mum was like, no, you can't get it because it won't work in the UK because it's a different, like the way the DVDs are. So I was so depressed. And then she actually bought it for me the next year. So I was happy. So Ghost Ship, is a great film. I enjoy the story. I love the characters, the music. There's some haunting music in it. Some of the score is really cool. And I think the cast is really great. I really enjoyed all of the cast. So yeah, I think that's another great one. And then finally, my last two, I'll do these one after the other because I'm taking up so much time. Dawn of the Dead, the remake. Don't hate me. Zack Snyder did an amazing remake. It's one of my favorite remakes. It's probably not my favorite remake of a horror film ever because he took that great film that was by, of course, legendary George A. Romero and made it into something that I was like, oh shit, this is actually really scary.
So good.
There's the jump scares, like, oh my God, the blood, the fast zombie, it was just great. And even though you have to allow the fact, you can see how far his effects have come from 2004 to Zack Snyder's Justice League when you see the fake fire and stuff. But even that, like, you don't even care. Like, it's just such a good film. And I just love it. So Dawn of the Dead. And finally, sorry, everybody, 13 Ghosts. 13 Ghosts is such a great film. I love Matthew Lillard. I love the cast. I think it's just a great film for those of you who've not heard of it. It's on Netflix in the UK at the moment. It's a film about this family who end up inheriting this huge glass house, which has lots of weird symbols on from their great uncle. And there is actually 13 ghosts in that house. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that as well. So those are my honourable mentions. Anybody want to say anything on that? Sorry, it was a long list.
I'll let you go first, Ben, because I've been commenting and making faces as he's
very judgmental as usual and really expect nothing less.
Actually, I liked most of his. Thank you very much.
I'll say that my favorite found footage film is actually M. Night Shyamalan's The Visit. I think he did something really creative with that movie, and it's incredible. I find that film terrifying. I truly, truly do. It has a great cast: Catherine Hahn, Olivia de Jong, the other little kid who's really good, and then the two people who play their grandparents are also very good. That old woman played the Miss Kirsch in It Chapter 2. I think that's her name.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's a great actress.
But that's all
I'll
good,
say.
Yeah.
Wow. There you go. You see, yeah, I don't know what it is. People always like smirk, like not smirk, but kind of like dismissive of me when I say I like found footage. I'm like, if
I was.
Yeah, exactly. But there are loads of found footage films. I think the problem is, well, I don't want to actually say because obviously there's the obvious one. But there are loads of, not
there
amateur,
are good and there are bad found footage films.
There are lots of indie found footage films that are actually really good. And I think if you have got a good story to tell and decent actors, they can really work because, like, you don't need, I mean, look at Paranormal Activity, that was supposed to be one film and it turned into the franchise. It became one of the biggest franchises in recent horror in terms of the money that they made from it. So I think, but then of course there is a lot of stupid found footage films. So I'm not saying they're, all amazing, but for me, if I had to pick a genre that, like, it would probably be found footage. So yeah.
So I'll comment then because I loved most of yours.
Which ones did you love?
Well, first off, I do want to say Taking of Deborah Logan. Fantastic film. If you have not seen it, absolutely, because like you said, the story and the acting, wow.
Yeah.
Like I just turned it on one time. I'm like, well, all right. And I was engrossed. It's a really good film. Mm-hmm. Ghost Ship I love because you're right. That opening is so much fun. And Juliana Margulies, I love her. ER.
She's great.
She's amazing. Good wife. I did not like 13 Ghosts. Sorry. I loved the cast actually, but I wanted more of the ghosts. The jump scares weren't as good. And I thought I loved Tony Shalhoub, but that was not the role for him. He just was not. He was boring.
Yeah.
I loved the premise though. I really do. And I haven't seen the original, So I like I said, I love the premise. I just didn't like it.
Yeah, but
I'm
Matthew
sorry.
Lillard's great in it, so that's one of the reasons I enjoyed the film. Because he's great in everything.
Nothing wrong with Matthew Lillard. So
Yutaka, since you're so high and mighty looking down on all of our picks, what are yours? These need to be some mind-blowing picks here.
they are not actually. So a common theme with mine, because you learn so much, but I chose for my honorable mentions because one, I do enjoy these films, but I also love supporting queer artists. So to find out on some of these that they were, well, one is obviously famous for that, but to find that there were queer talent behind the scenes, it just makes me really happy. And I have to because I still love the films. And Ben, I think you were the one who my first honorable mention recommended this to me, and that's Freaky. Or was that Yusuf? May have been Yusuf.
It did not release in my country for me to recommend it to you.
Okay, that was Yusuf. That's right, you guys. I'm still jealous you can go see it in theaters. I never got.
I actually didn't get to.
Oh.
But we rewatched it last weekend with a friend, and it's a good movie. I wouldn't put it in my honorable mentions, but it's definitely a solid slasher movie.
It's fun. I love the fact that you've got well, spoiler, the minorities live. That's nice. I'm sorry. But and I also liked the queer character. I thought they were hilarious. I love Misha. I think they were just great in all their line deliveries. I'll say the one, "Oh, Mr. So-and-so, I love your black wiener." And like, Josh, he's like, "What?" And it's a little black dog. And I know it sounds silly, but if you watch it, it made me laugh. And so I loved a lot of that. But I did like the slasher genre. I also like the writer, Michael Kennedy, and then also the director. Or I don't think he directed it. Now I feel bad not knowing. I know he was also a writer.
Landon.
Yes. Yeah. Who also did Happy Death Day, which is a really fun film. So Freaky, it's on HBO Max. If you're not pissed off at Warner Brothers or HBO, I would suggest watching it because it's a really fun film. It's a good action, or it's a good horror comedy, and I love the lead. And for once, I really enjoyed Vince Vaughn. I thought it was a fun role for him. So
Catherine Newton too. She made that movie for me.
I've loved her since Supernatural, and I know it's so silly, but when she comes in that red jacket and that entrance, I was like, yes, I cannot wait to see this. And then there's one very gratifying scene where she kind of, so to speak, turns the table on a teacher, and that was probably one of my favorite parts in the film. So Freaky. My other honorable, sorry, I know, but George got like all those, so I don't have that many.
Keep going.
Yeah, no, go.
The next one is Clive Barker's Hellraiser. I almost put Hellraiser 2 because I really enjoy it, but Hellraiser 1 with Kirsty, I know she's in the second one, but I felt the actual acting from her was just it was terrifying, and I loved it. And obviously I wish there was more of Pinhead in it, but I don't think that was really the purpose per se until the end, like if you see the other Hellraisers, but it is such a good film. I feel bad for the franchise because it kind of went downhill, but that first Hellraiser still holds up in my opinion. It's so good. And the whole, I know, like the I guess you would say the BDSM, or just like the bondage, torture, any of that kind of those undertones. And I don't know, I just really enjoyed it. And I thought also with the violence was very visceral, and I do like that. Okay. Ooh, George is like,
I haven't seen either of your two honorable mentions.
Holy shit!
You know about Hellraiser. I said I will watch those because I always had. I had seen.
I haven't seen that either.
Yeah, so they're on my list to watch. But Freaky, I am the type of person who, bar probably like a bit of light humor and scream style, I'm not a fan of like comedy horror. Shaun of the Dead, but that's not really horror. That's like just comedy. But in terms of like those sort of, like you're saying, and because obviously I've seen the trailers for Freaky and Happy Death Day, those type of films, I'm just like, I didn't come here for this. I came here to be absolutely fucking petrified, to want to feel ill.
Well, the kills in Freaky will make you feel ill. I will say that it's really more of a slasher comedy.
I'll say this much. I don't think it's as good as Yutaka says it is. I think, look, we all have films where we're probably clouded by something or one thing or another thing that makes us think it's one of the best films ever. You know, I think we all have stuff like that, whether it's affinity for a character or affinity for a director or an actor. I think we all have movies like that. I will say this, it's not as, say, painful as some of the Happy Death Day humor, particularly in the second film. I don't think all of the humor lands, but I think when it does land, it's really funny, and all the actors do a solid job, particularly the two leads. So I would recommend it. Also, the kills are pretty incredible. Like, it is R-rated. They do go for it, and that's something that I was really happy with because Happy Death Day doesn't. So on that basis alone, I'd recommend Freaky. It's a solid, I would say, 7.5, maybe even 8 out of 10.
See, George. Like
right.
I said, it's not like this cinematic genius, but I tell you, I thought the characters were very well written. I didn't think it was stereotypical. I really did. I enjoyed what the writers did. And yeah, I really would say at least watch it. You may not love it as much as I did, but that may also be because I watched it like 4 times in a weekend. Because, well, I'll tell you why though. When Universal released it here, since I couldn't see it in theaters, I had to pay the 20 to rent it for 24 or for 48 hours. Well, I'm going to get my $20 worth. So, I mean, that's how I looked at it. And it was fine because they happened to also be doing a live tweet every day that weekend it dropped. One with like the director and writer, the next with Trixie Mattel and Frankie Grande. I don't know why. And then one with Kevin Smith, which I thought was really fun. So it was a good time. And maybe that's kind of why I liked it more because, you know, yeah. And then again, Hellraiser, please watch it. I think George, I think if anything, you will love it. Ben, I'm not sure. I feel like you would, but there are elements I just think you're like,
Yeah,
but
probably. Doesn't seem like my thing, but I'm definitely going to watch it. I can't not watch it.
I think George will like it because the whole idea of hell and its pain and pleasure and Pinhead's iconic. I love Hellraiser. And then my last honorable mention, and I feel like it's definitely probably just a film that I enjoy where others were like, this is silly, this is stupid, or it's camp. I wouldn't say it's camp, but
spit it out.
all right, maybe because I'm biased too, but it's actually Child's Play too.
Oh, okay. Jeez, I thought you were going to say something.
I know it's
really
pretty stupid. I think I know I'm biased because we did just get to speak with the stars, but Child's Play 2.
Go check it out now.
Yes. It is one that I've watched over and over. I loved it as a child. I love it now. I think it's still got some good scares. I think Chucky has kind of elevated into more of kind of he's still scary, but he's still got that fun humor and those good one-liners that eventually I like where the Chucky series has gone. That's, you know, if you listen to the last one, you'll know. But I really did. And Child's Play 2 is just so much fun because I love the bond between Andy and Kyle. It's probably one of my favorites in the series. And so those are my 3 honorable mentions. Feel free to go check them out or feel free to dissect them. But I feel like I picked 3 that, well, I'm sad to say you guys haven't seen the Hellraiser, but it's okay because it sounds like you're going to watch it. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
We will cover that franchise eventually.
Yeah.
But like I said, queer talent behind the scenes, still working today. Gotta love that. So
Yeah, and I agree with Child's Play too. I thought you would say when you were doing this long ass like reality TV show pause before you got to it, I was thinking, what the hell is this going to be? But I know Child's Play 2 is a great film. And it's for me, it's one of those films that's like it's actually really close to the original for like a decent sequel for
exactly.
like those two are probably the strongest films in the franchise.
I don't like the
agree.
first one. I'll say that.
What I like about the first one is, and maybe I just like the setting of I just like the apartment. Maybe it's just because I'm obsessed with real estate. I'm like, oh, I'd love
Well,
to
I do
live there.
like it, but I don't think it's. With franchises and the original movies, and they're always like typically very high.
Yeah.
I like if I would rank the Chucky franchise, the original would probably be number 4 or 5. Like I think it's a decent movie. I think it's okay, but I much prefer how the franchise evolved and how it kind of exploded.
Okay.
And I think Don Mancini's original script, if you kind of learn about how it was rewritten and stuff like that, I think he wanted to keep it more of a mystery as to whether or not this child was possessed. In that movie, there is no mystery. You know for a fact that the doll is possessed because you see it at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just no mystery. I find that there's no tension whatsoever because
Yeah.
And you know Chucky, and you're going into watching the original Child's Play because you know that there's, particularly if you watch it now, and if you didn't watch it originally, that this is a big franchise and Chucky's a cool character. So since he's not as sort of animated as he is typically, I think it's kind of like weird watching it. But again, it's not a bad film by any means. But still, Child's Play 2 is a great choice. I love that movie.
Definitely. I agree.
I can't believe you said that about Child's Play, but all right. But I'm old, so I watched it way back when. I didn't know about the whole. If you look at it though, and you didn't know in the beginning, though, they kind of still give you. You don't like that first kill. You don't know if it's really Chucky or Andy, and I enjoyed that. Eventually, yes, you know it's Chucky, but in the very beginning, if you went into it not knowing, they did a good job with. You didn't see who really killed her. You saw the footprints, all this stuff. So,
yeah, but the opening of the film.
Yeah,
I know. I'm just saying.
If they didn't have that opening, then that would have been like a really good thing. But because the opening is what it is, I think that kind of takes away. Sorry, let's wait for.
But then on the news, they have like famed serial killer Charles Lee Ray.
Yeah.
Tried to do something to a doll. Like they have that on the news. It's really obvious.
But you still don't know if anything happened. It could have just been like foreshadowing. But anyways, we're dissecting that.
Lightning like went into the.
I know. I'm trying to give it.
Give me the power, I beg of thee.
But Child's Play 2, I think it's superior to the first. I love them both, but those are my 3 honorable mentions. So I feel I did good. Those are my 3 honorable mentions. Again, Freaky, Child's Play 2, and Hellraiser. And Freaky is on HBO Max. Go watch it.
So is Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Oh, yes. Oh, Dawn of the Dead. Netflix.
Yes.
I loved that one, though. That is one of my favorite. Oh, no, I forgot an honorable mention. Can I make one more then?
Are you going to say Army of the Dead?
I am. It's not my top 3, but I love Army of the Dead. Great film. I think Zack Snyder knows what he's doing when it comes to the zombie genre. He's really having fun with it. I love the practical effects. And I love the fact that he said F you to that Chris D'Elia and put in Tig Notaro. And that was amazing and phenomenal. And Valentine's the star of the show. Okay.
Great. I also have a profuse apology to make. I also forgot an honorable mention. There's just so many movies swirling around in my mind that I forgot to talk about this film, which is, in my opinion, an overlooked masterpiece. People do not talk enough about how incredible Candyman really, truly is. What a film!
Damn, I can't believe we didn't have that.
It was so close to my top 3, actually, and then I should have put it in my... So I absolutely agree.
Yep, same.
Tony Todd. Legend.
Icon, legend.
You have such incredible talent in the movie. The acting is great. The story, what they do with the story is just mind-blowing. Like, originally you think like it's the 1990s and they have like a white woman as the lead. And that's really confusing. But then they have such a legitimately, like a great story purpose for that. and how like their fates and their destiny were truly tied. Oh my God, like it just blew my mind. And
Might watch that
all the
tonight.
acting was incredible. The directing was great, the story was great, and I am so ecstatic to see what Nia DaCosta does.
I feel like this film, I'm just waiting for this film, and it's like, when is it out? September now?
September, at the end of August.
I cannot wait. I agree. The original Ben, yes. Virginia Madsen was phenomenal as well.
That scene.
Oh my gosh. See, we actually agree on more than we thought. And but I really, yes, Ben, Candyman, I'm
Kills
sorry.
too.
I can't believe I forgot that. But it's such a good film.
Yeah.
It is.
Truly.
Definitely.
It's so overlooked that even we forgot. You know, it needs more attention. It's very sad. But honorable mentions are out of the way. They didn't make the top 3.
No.
My number 3 is a film that I would say is probably less of a horror movie, but more of an excellent film with horror and more primarily thriller elements. So my number 3 is Best Picture winner, The Silence of the Lambs, with incredible performances. Jodie Foster, Sir Anthony Hopkins, 2-time Oscar winner now. For me, Jodie Foster makes that movie. And Anthony Hopkins is incredible as well, but you wouldn't have, I think, as strong of a movie if it wasn't for Jodie Foster's expert balance on how she walked the line of that role. She did it really, really well. The story is sinister, and the end. There's a lot of really incredible scenes in the movie where you're just on the edge of your seat. The final showdown in Buffalo Bill's basement to Hannibal Lecter's escape sequence, which is just incredible. That was a really well edited sequence, and it's really, really well done. So The Silence of the Lambs, I've only seen it twice, but every time I've seen it, it's gone up, which is pretty rare for a movie for me to do. I can't really rewatch movies. They typically go down, but Silence of the Lambs went up. I just think it is a phenomenal piece of cinema that the horror genre is lucky to have as its own.
Damn. Well, there we go. Yeah, I like Silence of the Lambs. I know I do. I like it, and I think it is a good film and has its place in the world of horror. However, it's just it's not my type of film. But I agree. The way I got in terms of that's me talking about favorite now, not in terms of like the way like yours about. It definitely deserved the awards it got and all things like that, 100%. But yeah, it's not my film. But I can see why people would really enjoy it. So
I don't find it as much as a horror film as I do thriller. However, it is still one of that to me would be a best. Like that is a great film. Well written, well acted, well directed. So I'm not mad at the choice. I don't know if I consider it horror, but again, I'm not mad because it's a great freaking film. It's absolutely fantastic. And honestly, Ben, that is a film I can watch over and over because you're right. I think there are things you find in it that just you didn't see the first time, or I don't know. And I love the acting so much. Like, damn, it is nice to see those types of films. I mean, there's very few, I guess, since we're classifying it as horror, that really get recognition. And that one, it deserved everything, in my opinion. So
definitely,
I can't be mad at that choice, Ben. I think that's a good choice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's hope that's where the agreeing begins and not where we get torn apart. Because George, yours is next, and let's see what you have. Let's take a little look there at your number 3.
So my number 3 is a film that built a genre that I love. Mainly from there was obviously one before it, but it's the one that's the most well known. It came up at a time when the internet was just arriving and they used that as a great marketing tool. It is, of course, the Blair Witch Project. And now, there are lots of people who I can see what they're saying, that nothing happens and it's a really boring film. I can understand their elements, but I think if you go into, I think there's so much to unpack. And I think because nothing necessarily really happens, that allows you to make your own judgments of what really happened, which I love because there's one thing I do love, it's making judgments. And so for me, Blair Witch, this film I watched, I can remember the first time I watched it, and I was a lot older. I think I was 15, 16 when I watched this film. I remember just a little story about it. We'd been out all day. It was a hot summer's day. It was like the middle of August. Me and my friends, we'd been out. We'd done this long walk out to this island near where we lived. Walked back. It was so hot. My friend was like, come and stay at, there's 4 of us. Let's stay at my house and we'll all. So we did that. We ordered, we had a nice Domino's and we watched this film. The actress who plays Mary, the old woman, is one of my favorite people ever. Now, I believe she is, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, she was actually part of the crew. I want to say, I nearly said Mary Shaw because I was thinking of Dead Silence. Mary Brown. And Mary Brown has the scene where she talks about how she met the Blair Witch, and she's like, yes, well, it really is a kind of scary story. Anyway, I'm just saying, but I just love that scene. But for me, Blair Witch, I love it because I'll never forget the moment we were watching. It was pitch black, and the scene where, spoilers, they're in the tent and they hear the sounds of the children outside the tent going like, meow. I was just like, oh my God, I feel like that was it just terrified me. And the scene where they're running and she's like, oh my God, what the fuck is that? And you don't see anything. You do not see anything, but it's perfect because these days we see too much in horror films. We see so much. They're like, here, do you want to see everything? And we're like, no, we want to make our own judgments. And that was a film, I think, that was ahead of its time. It came at the right time when it needed to come. And obviously, I mean, I would have loved to have been, I was 97, maybe 1.5 when it came out. Ben wasn't even alive. So, but to have been there when that first came out and to have seen Yutaka, do you know what? We was joking about Yutaka being older, but how cool, you got to experience some of these films, in the cinema and stuff, Scream, this, I'd die to have been there in those times.
Before they get ruined too.
Yeah.
That's what y'all make jokes, but trust me, there's something about going into a horror film or any film, honestly, and not knowing the outcome because it hasn't been spoiled. I think it's different now at times, but oh my gosh, seeing the Blair Witch in theaters, I don't know if I would have liked it as much if I watched it on home video. But in theaters, it was a great experience.
Yeah. But obviously, it was because of stuff like Cannibal Holocaust that these type of films came out. That was the first in 1980, I want to say, was the first found footage film. Blair Witch, it came at the right time. Great cast, great ideas. And obviously they had them scared to shit, the actors in real life. They had no idea what was going on. And I think you can see that in some of their acting. So
I think that's one of my favorite parts of that. They're really terrified. And because of that, as an audience member, I mean, I remember just sitting there like, oh my God. So yeah. I like that choice too.
So yeah, that was number 3. Thank you. Ben, any thoughts on that?
I haven't seen it, so no.
You've not seen the Blair Witch Project? Oh my God.
You've not seen Hellraiser, so I mean, neither have I.
Neither of you?
Yeah, no,
I'm sorry, this is a horror podcast. Y'all need to up your fucking game.
See, the thing with me was when I grew up with horror, the first one I ever watched, it was Scary Movie, and then it was Scream. So the way I kind of grew up was my uncle. My uncle would have seen all these movies, and he told me that The Exorcist was boring. We're not going to watch that. I only watched that for the first time a few months ago because he told me not to watch it, so I never did. And I was really young getting into all this stuff, so he never wanted to watch the Blair Witch Project, but he had all of the Nightmare on Elm Streets, and he had all these really weird movies on DVD that we would always watch. We'd have all the Chucky movies. I bought all the Halloween movies. I only got them recently, but we had a box set of some of them. So it took me a really long time to build up a repertoire, and I still haven't seen everything yet. So I'm still kind of on my journey to watch everything that I can.
Mhm.
So I'm still trying. Apologies for that.
That's all right, but please just add that to your to-do list in the next 6 months, please.
Mm.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Cool. I'll add your mother to it as well. And
Oh.
Yutaka.
How do I follow that? Oh my god. Okay. So well my third pick, I didn't realize it wasn't a movie. But I'm still choosing it. Sorry. But Hulu, as I said, I talk about this one. I knew it. Sorry. Hulu does a series called Into the Dark, right? And it's different directors each time, writers, and it's
You've not
just
mentioned that.
Huh?
You've
I
not
haven't?
mentioned that, no?
Well, like,
Well,
if
hold
we
on,
could
hold
do,
on.
I think TV should be a separate thing because
But
The Haunting of Hill House is one of the best things
this,
ever.
but here's the thing. Each episode is actually a movie. It's all different actors. It's like each is its own theme. So it's like an anthology movie series, in my opinion. I didn't realize they considered it TV because I think the one I chose is like almost 80 minutes, so that's still pretty decent for a horror film. So I'm going with it, guys. Sorry, I just realized that, but I still love this. So I chose My Valentine. Yeah, you haven't heard of it, or you've heard me.
You every time we start to record, you're like, guys, there's this, it's amazing. It's the greatest thing. So yeah, we know what it is.
Sorry,
Please tell us more.
but none of you have ever watched it. So I'll
We
tell
will.
you why it's on my third list. One, I think Ben will like it. Stars Britt Baron.
From the
See,
best TV show of all time, Glow.
yep. And the writer director Maggie Levin really did a great job, in my opinion, in terms of the script and the story. And it's not only is it somewhat of a slasher, but it's got those I think those personal elements in terms of mental health, codependency, breaking free, becoming, learning to love you and learning to, just be your authentic self. And I just love it. Takes place in a club that is all total bisexual lighting. It's just neons everywhere, and it's so good. And then the score I can't get over, from Mark Hadley and Keely Bumford, or AK Dressage. The score is one of my favorites, and the whole purpose of the main character is she's deciding to now, after several years of not being in public or not performing her own music, she's going to perform her own music live. And in walks her abusive, controlling, manipulative ex Royal and his new carbon copy of her. And what goes down in the club, just it gets all crazy, and that's when the slasher elements take in. But I love the score, I love the acting. It's something I can watch over and over, and it's something where I've listened to the soundtrack over and over. So I'm still considering it a movie. Sorry about it, but that would be mine. I know you haven't seen it. I know I talk about it a lot, but it's one of my favorites. It's not the best out there in sense, but it is one of my absolute favorites because I think the actors really sell it. I love the story, and again, I really enjoy the music. It's just a nice. It feels like the music is also like a supporting character versus just it's in the background. I really think it takes center stage at times. So.
No, I mean, I'm looking. I know we joke about it, but I'm looking for. I will watch it. I'm looking forward to watching it. As I say, I watched the trailer, and it does look interesting. And as I say, it's just something I would probably enjoy. I just haven't got around to it. So yeah, and I know that you like it as well. So I love, and you know that I love neon lighting. So wherever there's neon lighting, I'm there.
I watched it last night, and I'm like, God, George is really going to enjoy this because they really go full in on that, and the colors. That's the other thing. It's visually, I just love the colors. It just pops, and I love it.
Neon lighting carried me through the Fear Street trilogy, so if it can do that, it can do anything.
You know, I almost put that in my honorable mentions.
No, you
1978.
did not.
I did, but I decided not to. I
Okay.
didn't want that one would have been. Ooh.
Fair.
The wounds are
So,
still fresh.
so that's my honorable mention, or not my. Oh my god, my third pick. That is also available, well, in the U.S. on Hulu. I seriously suggest everyone go watch it and then go stream the soundtrack. It's really good. Um, like I said, Mark Hadley and Dressage, they made some really fucking good music. So, and with that, we will take our break before we get into our second picks.
You are listening to the Horror Hour with Ben, George, and Yutaka.
And we are back, and now we are going to get into our runner-ups for our favorite horror film of all time. So I'm going to start my number 2, and that is, when we talk about horror, a lot of it for me, and this is why so many horror franchises, I think, are so disastrous once they keep going. It's you need to have, for me, what makes a movie is atmosphere, a look, and like great visuals and a great feeling. Like you love being in the world. That's why I think like all the Nightmare on Elm Street films, like past number 3, just are completely drab and have nothing to them. Same with Friday the 13th, but it's just endless with them. Like they have nothing significant about them whatsoever. And even some of the Halloween films, 5 just has nothing to it. Like say what you want about 6, it at least has atmosphere. It at least has a color palette, and it's the same old story. So when I think about my second favorite horror film of all time, I love being in the world of Stephen King, and no filmmaker has captured that world like Mike Flanagan in the sequel to The Shining that is called Doctor Sleep. This film, I don't know what it is about it. There's sometimes you hear about a movie and you just think that is such a cool idea. A sequel to The Shining is such a cool idea, and I love how they did it. They didn't just do like what a horror franchise would typically do, which is like, oh, another family moves into the Overlook Hotel. That's totally what would happen if it was just a regular horror franchise. And it would just keep happening, like, oh, the mother maybe goes insane this time. I loved how they took the idea of The Shining and they brought it into the grander world. For me, it is the most epic horror film of all time. It's the one that feels the most like a blockbuster, but it's still true to its roots. You have incredible performances from not only Ewan McGregor, but he's number 3 when it comes to this ensemble. It's Kylie Curran and Rebecca Ferguson, the women of the ensemble, who truly empower this film and will it to the heights that it gets to. Not only that, but we have cinematography, which is incredible, which is truly absolutely stunning, as well as the production design, the camera work, and how some of the angles, what he's able to pull off in some of the Shining sequences, where it's Kylie Curran's character interacting, whether it's with Rose the Hat or whether it's with Dan. Incredible work. And of course, you get to the man, Mr. Mike Flanagan, who not only wrote this film, but directed, produced, and edited it. And he did such an incredible job. The director's cut of this film is like the embodiment of Halloween to me. It's the embodiment of that cold October month, the fresh feeling of the autumn. He captures all that in a film, and it is a movie that is practically made for me. Shine on, Aberstone is one of my favorite lines in a film ever, and it's really, really powerful. So my number 2 is Doctor Sleep. I love this film with all of my being, and I am really, really happy that I own it. Because it was really hard to get the director's cut on 4K. It was only around for like a limited time, and I missed it on Amazon. But I was so lucky to find it in a golden discs in up in Blanchardstown. I was so lucky to find it, and now I have that forever. And it is a film that has my heart. So Doctor Sleep, number 2.
Okay. You do know it was a book, right?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
I'm reading it at the moment.
It's such a good book as well. My friend actually.
It's incredible.
Just talking about that, we watched. So she doesn't like horror films, and it was my birthday. It was Halloween, and we watched. Was it Halloween? When did Doctor Sleep come out?
November 8th.
Yeah, so it would have been Halloween.
Stupidly. Another thing about that film, the marketing was such a disaster. They could have easily run away with 30 million to 40 million opening weekend. It would have felt like nobody's business, but they still could have gotten away with way more than what they got. Anyway, go ahead.
But yeah, so we watched, it was my birthday, and The Shining, obviously it's Halloween, my birthday's Halloween. If anyone doesn't know that, feel free to, send me anything. But does it kind of make me the most superior person on this podcast, probably? So The Shining was obviously on, and my friend who hates horror movies, my friend Kath, little shout out to her, she hates them. I remember I made her watch The Walking Dead, and she didn't sleep for about a year and a half. And she like really enjoyed The Shining. She was like, this is really good. And then we went to go and see Doctor Sleep the week after, and she then read like The Shining book and Doctor Sleep, and she was like, so these films really got her into horror, which I was surprised at, because I mean, I like Doctor Sleep. I think it's a good film. Obviously, it's just, I think because, and you've got to explain it's such a different vibe to what The Shining was. But then I think, it's better to like read the books, because it makes the story is more linear. Because obviously what you're doing with films, and especially with different directors, especially what, I know we talk about Doctor Sleep, but what Kubrick did with his version of The Shining, was very different to kind of what the book was.
Mike Flanagan had to stitch together Stephen King, Stanley Kubrick, and tell his own story. He did not have an easy task ahead of him. And I can commend him. I can see why people might think that it's not what they want. I personally never found that much in The Shining. I don't find it scary. I find it a really good movie that's kind of suspenseful a little bit, but I don't particularly have any affinity for it. So with this film being completely different, but while also paying loving homage to The Shining, I am... It makes me like The Shining more that this story exists. That's how I view Doctor Sleep.
Okay. Yutaka, you look like you want to say something.
Oh, no, Ben knows how I feel about this film. But since we're here, that film put me to sleep multiple times. I didn't like it. I'm sorry. I thought the acting was fine. I thought the story was just, I'd rather read the book at this point. I did not connect with that film, and I know you love it, so kudos to you. I don't think it was going to do good at the box office. I think, yes, the marketing sucked, but I just really couldn't connect with the film. And I understood where they were going. Some of the things I even admitted I would admit there's a part that even I was like, oh, was like, okay, I think you might be getting me interested. And then it just falls flat for me.
Well, like the film, it's like a really emotional story. So it's only really for people who have hearts. So I can understand why some don't find any connection to it, if you know what I mean.
Oh, I know, it's true. I don't, so I didn't. But some might be blinded by a certain overrated actress too. So you got to be...
Anything, she's overrated by two people on the fucking planet and then underrated by everyone else.
Sure. Yeah, that's why her movies do so well.
Natalia is shook.
I know.
I don't connect with The Shining. I think that Dr. Sleep does a better sort of tale of addiction and abuse. I think it does that much better. I think The Shining book does it better than The Shining movie, but still.
I would agree with you on that. I don't like Stanley Kubrick, so yes.
I think Shelley Duvall, in my opinion, no one gives her any credit because she makes The Shining as good as it is, in my opinion. It's not Jack Nicholson. For me, it's Shelley Duvall that really engrosses me in that film. Jack Nicholson's very good, and of course he's important, but Shelley Duvall does something that I don't think, ever seen and will ever see since, because her terror was real.
Holy shit, Ben and I agree on something. I agree, Ben.
Yeah, we'll never see that again because that was literal torture on set. So that's why we won't see it again.
Yeah.
That woman is now, sadly, not
acting
and not a well person, unfortunately, because of what happened to her. So have you not seen the Dr. Phil?
Dr. Phil tried to exploit it.
Did you not see the Dr. Phil interview, Yutaka, where she's like, I've got tiny tape recorders in my body, and she's like, yes, thank you, that people are now noticing. Like, it's really sad because she was fantastic. But I love, actually, sorry, just talking about...
I didn't realize behind the scenes like that they were putting her through literal hell.
What? You didn't know that she was...
No.
There's literally footage of Stanley Kubrick saying, "We're all freezing our asses out here, and you can't even open the goddamn door properly after like 20 takes." He made her life horrific and horrendous. He tortured her.
Yeah. It's awful. But yeah, just to talk about Shady Bell, she was brilliant in that film. I know we're not talking about the show, but it just reminded me that I have this video that I watch pretty much at least once a month, and it's like 3 minutes of she did a load of adverts. I can't remember what it was for in America, and it's just 3 minutes of her going,
"Hello, I'm Shelley Duvall. Hello, I'm Shelley Duvall. Hello, I'm Shelley Duvall. Hello, I'm Shelley Duvall."
In different adverts. I just love it. I don't know why. Anyway, sorry. Dr. Sleep's great.
Now we move on to you, George.
Yeah.
Blow us away, stun us with your number 2.
My number 2 that no one has watched yet, but they will do because next week's episode is going to be them reviewing it. It is Hell House LLC. Hell House LLC, I stumbled upon. It's another found footage film. It's fairly new, I want to say. It's actually a trilogy. And to be fair, as far as found footage trilogies go, it isn't that bad. It's probably more interesting as a trilogy than Paranormal Activity, and I love the Paranormal Activity films. But Hell House LLC, I stumbled upon because I'm like, right, I need new found footage films to watch. And when it comes to horror, especially found footage, I've seen pretty much all of them. I might not have seen all the horror films, but found footage being my favorite, I've seen pretty much all of those. And it came up a few times, this hell. In fact, you know what? It wasn't. I'm lying to you. It was on TikTok. Whoa, my God. Whoa. And it was on TikTok and it came up and it was like, there's all these people like horror films that, have never, these great horror films that fuck you up. And it was this Hell House LLC. And it's on Amazon Prime. It's also on, all of them are on Shudder. If you've got Shudder, Shudder's great. You should have Shudder. Shudder. So I watched it. And I was like, oh my God, there is one scene. Let me tell you, the base of the story, it's found footage, and it is about these. The beginning element is that there was a haunted house event for Halloween. Something happened and people ended up dying. And the beginning part shows off as a documentary of them talking about what happened at Hell House. And they interview one of the people who was there, and she gives them these tapes. She was working on it, and she said, watch the tapes. And then it goes through the process of they obviously watch these tapes and see exactly what happened. It's from the perspective of the people who are creating this this attraction. And it is really, really good. There is a scene, I would give it away, in a bedroom where they turn on, she's talking to the camera. And I swear to God, till this day, I cannot... Every time I go to sleep, I see the image of what is ingrained in this scene. Like here, my bed's there. I see the image of what happens here. And it just terrifies me. So I would really recommend, I can't wait for you both to watch it. For anyone who hasn't watched it, I would really recommend it. Hell House LLC, there's 3 of them. The first one's brilliant. I actually really enjoyed the second one. The third one's not bad. But as they go, the story is actually really interesting. And you will see it develop throughout the trilogy. But Hell House number 1, LLC, is definitely my number 2. Thank you.
We're gonna watch it. We're gonna review it next week. So, if it's as good as George says it is, to be honest, his list has kind of not really impressed any of us at this point. So it's probably not that good. So, tune in next week to see if he's wrong yet again. But speaking of people that are wrong, Yutaka is next.
Wow. I have seen Hell House.
You have seen it?
Mm-hmm. I'm leaving it at that.
Okay.
We'll talk on the review.
Okay, I look forward to that.
Okay.
I've seen
it.
Then. It's on Netflix and also in the US if you'd like to see it. But in Shudder, because Shudder is amazing.
Sponsor us.
Yes. Oh, okay. So
go on then.
Oh, I agonized over my top 2. Of which to put at number 1.
Maybe have a little guess who it's between.
I know you know who it's between. Go for it.
Is it between a knife-gloved dream haunting maniac and a real life sociopath wearing a ghost face mask?
No.
Oh, okay.
But it's definitely one of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of them.
Is it Jaws?
No.
Oh,
We'll
okay,
argue
that's
that on another time. So my my second favorite is Scream. I think I like I said, I agonized over this. Oh,
good.
I really did. But it was as you know, George's shirt, but it is peak Wes Craven. He took a genre that was starting to become stale. Just they weren't they weren't profitable. They just weren't good.
It was
Uh,
stale. It was bad at that point.
it really was. And so he took it and he kind of got a little meta. I thought the script was fantastic. I thought the cast was right on, and it was a great story. And for once, I enjoyed the fact that, um, it wasn't supernatural. It was there was somebody out there killing people, killing kids.
Hmm.
And I still will stand to this day that is the best horror opening ever. I think that is that set the whole tone of the movie, because I remember the marketing. It was, Drew Barrymore was, the star, one of the big stars of the film. Sorry, spoiler if you haven't watched it by now, but I mean, that opening was incredible. I remember watching in theaters thinking, what the fuck did I just see? And I just didn't know what was going to come next. And I loved that it was a slasher with an actual mystery and a good story. I thought when the comedy was there, it was used well. I thought the deaths were, some of them, over the top. And yeah, I can't get enough of Scream. I mean, it's literally a go-to film if I'm just, not feeling well, I'm a little down. I watch Scream to give me a good pick-me-up because it's such a great film. I get so invested in all the characters, and honestly, it set a new blueprint because almost everybody tried to copy it afterwards in terms of the movies they were making, which is fine. I have no problem, but Scream really took the slasher genre and reinvented it all over again. So I have high hopes for Scream 5. Still nervous, but I have high hopes. But I would say Scream because Wes Craven in general has made a lot of horror films that are near and dear to my heart. And I love him as a director. May he rest in peace. But he put out some of the best horror films, and I think he's created some great some great franchises. And he still, as Ben's yawning, he
Sorry.
he liked to push boundaries. I don't know if you've ever seen Last House on the Left, but
Yes.
it was very controversial when it came out, and so I love Wes Craven, and I agonized about not putting Scream as number one, but I have a feeling we'll see it again. But that's my number 2 pick. What do you think?
I think that, you know what, I ultimately respect it because I think we should leave Scream as number one for the person who's gonna, like, again, it's the first horror film I saw. I remember seeing it for the first time. I had watched that movie, like, I know when the girl says the party, I watch your show religiously to Gail Weathers. I watched Scream religiously. Like, I'd come home like on a Friday, I'd watch Scream. It's kind of how I watched most horror movies, like Nightmare on Elm Street and Chucky. I just watched them on loop, and Scream was not excluded from that. Now I obviously spaced it out more. It is an absolute classic, and if you want to hear more about Wes Craven's sort of process throughout the years, the Never Sleep Again Nightmare on Elm Street documentary
amazing.
It's 4 hours long. Wes Craven's only in like the beginning of it, and only he's spread out through it then. But if you really want to talk about how we got how Hills Have Eyes and The Last House on the Left were like received, his image then going into making A Nightmare on Elm Street, he's focused in like the first maybe 45 to like an hour of 45 minutes to an hour of that documentary, and then thinking about where his career went then with Scream. It's really interesting. I'd highly recommend that documentary. Okay, George, say your piece.
Say my piece. I'm not a fan of that film. I like Scream. Well, I mean, what are we? Okay, it's not my okay. Scream's my number one. There we go. Okay, I'm sorry I've messed up the way we've just gone all around. We'll have to go backwards and do you two for. It makes sense to just move on progressively. Otherwise, it's not really like exciting to wait for. Scream is my
Fair
number
enough.
one.
Yeah.
I'm really excited now. Well, I'm interested, not because I wouldn't say excited. I've got a life, but I'm intrigued to see what Yutaka's number one is now, because I was thinking we're both going to go for this because I know how much he likes it. Yeah, for me, Scream is my number one. For those of you who are watching the video, which you can see on our YouTube channel, link in the description, the horror hour. I have my t-shirt on. I have my Scream decollage here at the back, in between. We've got Ghostface in between, Pumpkin, and I can't do it because it's the wrong way, and Valak there. So yeah, Scream for me, my number one. I just love it. For me, it was always because it was, I think I've told the story before, but I had seen, my mum had a video of Scream, and I remember seeing like it was like handwritten on the outside, like this cool, like in red and black. And I remember seeing it as a kid and being like, oh my God, what is this? And she was like, you can't watch it. It's an 18, you can't watch it. I remember when I was older, because she loves Scream. I think Scream, well, Halloween is my mum's favorite horror movie, but Scream is up there. I remember once, I don't know, we were babysitting for someone and she was like, oh my God, she was telling me, and I remember we were looking outside at this house and there was like a tree, and she was like, that looks like the tree from the opening of Scream. And I was like, what is happening? What happens in it? And she was like, oh, yeah. I'm like, bloody hell, Mum. Bear in mind, I was probably like 6, 7 at the time. She's like, yeah, like this girl, spoilers, this girl gets, hung on a tree and her guts are hanging out. And I was like, wow. So yeah, I was always like, Scream would always interest me because I was so hyped to finally be allowed to see it, and when I did watch it, it didn't let me down. I'd say the opening, one of the best, the best opening in a horror film, I would say, and one of the best openings of a film, full stop.
Yeah, I would agree.
I really liked what they did was something that, I mean, it had been done. They had, the element of this person that we thought was the main character dying first. It had Psycho did do that before, but to see that happen again, it'd been a long time before like that had happened, and all the posters and things. Drew Barrymore was at the front, Nev Campbell was at the back. Obviously, originally, anyway, Drew was supposed to play Sidney Prescott, and she said, her and Wes had a conversation, and she was like, "What would it be like if I died first?" And I want to say thank you so much, Drew Barrymore, for having that conversation, because you gave us the Queen, Nev Campbell. And in the words of Trixie Mattel, Nev Campbell should have won an Oscar for Scream. Yes. Okay? She is, to me, the greatest. You can keep your Laurie Strode, you can keep Nancy, you keep everybody. To me, she is the best final girl, period. And to me, Scream as a franchise is, and again, this is my personal opinion, obviously everyone's allowed their own opinions, is to me one of the strongest horror franchises in terms of each sequel being, they weren't all amazing, but when you look at something like, I don't know, Friday the 13th, you will see that there's a very big difference between that. Even stuff like, we're talking there about stuff like Halloween and stuff like,
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street, exactly. Sorry, in other words.
Hellraiser,
exactly. These films, these franchises, Chucky, they've all had a trajectory. But for me, I think Scream has been one of the ones that has been consistently good and has followed a story, and the fact that it's followed the same person. Because, of course, very rarely that happens. Nightmare on Elm Street, of course, Nancy is in and out of them. Friday the 13th, not really anybody who's the same. Halloween, there's about, obviously Laurie Strode is the famous one, but of course you've got Jamie and things like that. There's loads of different characters that come in and out, and so on. And Chucky, the same with Chucky, Andy's in the first 3, and then, you're going on to different characters. But Scream and Nev has been so consistent, and Nev and Wes are just absolutely fantastic. And I'm really, I was worried at first about Scream 2022 and what happens, but from what I've seen, I am really excited to see what's next. I'm really hoping that we may get a teaser on the 2nd of August, which would have been Wes's birthday. I think that would be perfect. I don't know. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see where they take this franchise. It's a difficult one for me because it's like, I want it to grow because I really enjoy the franchise, but I know that probably means that Nev will have to take a back seat somewhere. Whether that be, for me, I would be happy if at the end of the next Scream film, they do a Scream 3 thing and she just goes off and lives happily ever after. Bye-bye. And then whoever is going to be the new, the new main character, whether that's going to be Melissa or not, I don't know. But that those stories can carry on there, and maybe Nev can pop back in a couple of films and be like the Barbara Gordon Oracle of Scream, where she's like, okay, look, I need to do this. I don't know, but yeah. Sorry, that was a bit of a tangent. For me, it's Scream. I mean, the cast: Matthew Lillard. I mean, Skeet Ulrich. I mean, all of them. They're fantastic. No, and
you forgot to mention the best one, Rose.
Of course, Rose McGowan. Yes, everyone was so well cast in that film. And I also want to shout, obviously, Courtney Cox, because I know that a lot of people, when she was cast in that, were like, she's not going to be able to do this. And she proved everybody wrong. And she's done such a great job with that character. And after Sydney, she is my favorite character. I think she's just so great. I love her in Scream 3. It's one of my favorite, even with the band. They're just brilliant. So yeah,
her and Parker Posey in Scream 3 were amazing. Loved it.
Say what you want about Scream 3. I know it went through rewrites and everything, and it wasn't the film.
I like Scream 3. I like it a lot.
I think
it's really good.
There is not one Scream film. I know everyone has the least favorite Scream film. For me, I don't have a least favorite. I could honestly, I would watch them all back to back. I know people don't like Scream 4 because of the way, I understand the way it was shot was very jarring.
But I think it's kind of like a little bit embarrassing of a movie as well. Like, it's just not the best at all. And like, I think the way that they used the older characters was just kind of pathetic. Like, they were just there. I don't think there was a real need for them with the story they decided to tell. I'm glad that in this next movie, it seems like there's more of a reason for it. These directors, I think, seem to want to do it for a story reason. I didn't feel like there was a strong story reason for Scream 4 to even exist. That's why it's my least favorite. But I do agree with the notion that it is the most consistent horror franchise, because even with all that, it's still like a 7.5 out of 10 of a movie, because you can still watch it and enjoy it.
Well, Scream 4 for me has, apart from Scream 3, but that kind of Scream 4 has probably, I don't know, maybe you guys will disagree, the one killer where you're like, oh shit, okay. Scream 1 is just, no offense, I don't think they were trying to hide it. For me, it was just so plainly obvious. But I don't care. It was great. Well, I mean, it
wasn't for 7-year-old Ben was shocked.
Really?
7-year-old Ben was
same
shocked.
here.
Yeah.
Sitting in theaters, because I was not expecting that.
Well, he was in prison. He got out of prison. You just assume, okay, he's not the killer, and he was fucking stabbed in the bedroom. Like, okay.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. But he's great. They're both great. Him and Matthew Lillard plays such a great, and there was some great, improvisation in those scenes and everything. But yeah, for me, Scream and the Scream franchise are just absolutely, I just love them. So that is my number one. Sorry, I've messed up everyone's way we were going round, but there was no point in dragging that out. So Ben,
I mean, fair enough.
Let's jump to you. Number one.
I don't think, since Yutaka knows what it is, but I don't really think that it's a film that you can anticipate being on the top of a favorite horror list, because I can see the argument of people not counting it as horror, but for me, it absolutely is the epitome of sci-fi horror. It is an absolute masterpiece, and it's not only I can't even put my feelings for this film into words. It's incredibly difficult, but I cannot. It's my favorite film of all time, Alex Garland's Annihilation. It is my favorite film of all time, and is my favorite horror film of all time. The way that this film puts across its themes visually through the story, the visuals themselves are not only stunning, but they are otherworldly. They do create whatever it is they're trying to create. Again, it's hard to put into words how just expertly done this film was for me. And every time I watch it, it gets me to my core. And I don't even know what the feeling is. I've written a lot of papers. I've written 2 papers about this movie for school, and I'm still trying to find out how exactly I feel about it, what the emotion it is, what it is that it gets in me. It's a feeling of pure doom and annihilation. That's it's it's incredibly difficult to put into words, but the score, the directing, the acting, the script, the cinematography, the visual effects, and the production design all come together to create this absolutely mad film. Like it is a mad movie, but it is one that gets you in its grasp. A lot like Scream. It's a lot like a roller. Scream is a roller coaster. Like you really go through a lot of emotions in Scream and in Halloween and all these horror films. Annihilation is it. It doesn't bring you on a roller coaster. It grabs you by the neck and it drags you through everything that it is putting up on screen. And so for me, no question, it's my favorite movie of all time. Annihilation.
Wow. Okay.
Mm.
That was a shock. When you said sci-fi, I was like, oh, okay, Alien.
Yeah. No. No.
No, it's that film. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can see why you would say that. But then yeah, I kind of would also be on the side that's like, is it a horror film? But I can agree. I think the score was brilliant. I really liked a lot of what it did. So yeah, I'm just like you say, it's quite just a surprise that someone's number one. But
Yeah, I mean the way I view Alex Garland's filmography, I see Ex Machina as a horror film. Like truly about the horrors of technology and even the way that the final act plays out. Like this, that's like a goddamn slasher movie. Like it is scary as fuck. Ex Machina, and I've done lots of studies on that movie as well. Alex Garland really just makes these incredible mindfuck movies that just stay with you for the rest of your life. And so he's my favorite director, and I cannot wait for his new film starring Jesse Buckley. That's going to be incredible.
that would be a good film. Mm-hmm.
Yutaka, what are your thoughts? I mean, give me your thoughts as they are. We can debate them.
So I have seen Annihilation. I agree with a good portion of Ben's comments on it. I didn't think the acting though was strong. That was probably my least favorite thing, and I thought it dragged down the film. Visually, it is stunning. It is visually stunning. I do think the score is great. I still have some issues with the story as well. I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't like it, but I saw parts of it that I really did respect. And I can't get over how visually striking it is. It is stunning. I just didn't feel what Ben felt in terms of how it elevated. I would have liked to maybe have seen a different cast per se, because I just felt the cast was it like the cast in general, the acting, that is talent, but I just didn't feel like the acting was there, if that makes sense.
Fair enough. Yeah, I can see it. I can see it. For me, it just
but I
all
totally
works.
get the horror element. Absolutely. I won't even say it's not a horror film, because yes, I completely agree with that. Because you can have sci-fi horror, and I mean, that to me is still a horror film.
The bear.
But I didn't like it, so I'm sorry. But Ben, I love that you have the passion for it. I think that's awesome.
Oh yeah,
And
I have done so much with that film. It's not even funny. The themes,
yeah.
there's so much you don't even notice about how our own personal self annihilation. They delve a lot into that. Our own self destruction, the theme of duality and nature and biology. It's really, really interesting. Everything that he managed to do, based off of his memory of the book. I thought it was a really interesting way to adapt a film that Taika Waititi then copied. Anywho, Yutaka, number one.
I am actually offended and hurt that nobody knew what my number one was, considering I have talked about it as well. Yes. And
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Oh my gosh, this is crazy. So the reason I chose this as my number one is because it was the first film I ever watched as a scary movie that that developed my love for horror. I think it's an incredible film. I think it's very well acted. I think the tension is there. And just like Ben, sci-fi can be horror. So the first film I ever saw, I was 6 years old. I still remember sitting in the old living room. My folks were in the kitchen cooking chili and rice. It's an Asian thing. Sorry about it. But it was Alien. Yep.
Yeah.
That movie will always stay with me because I remember as a 6-year-old, should I have been watching that? Hell no. I don't know what my parents were thinking, but I'm so happy because I remember I was terrified. I literally had the sense of dread. And even I think I would probably love to see this in theaters, but even on the screen, it felt so claustrophobic. There's really nowhere you can go. Again, you're in space. I loved the tagline, "In space, no one can hear you scream." I think, Ridley Scott did a wonderful job. And I know you love Nev Campbell. She is a great final girl. But Sigourney fucking Weaver as Ripley was, oh my gosh, incredible. I see that look, George. But I did. I love everything about Alien. Especially to, the face hugger, and then when it bursts out of his chest. I mean, that was just iconic. And I do. I have a personal attachment to it. So I think that's why it's my favorite. Because were it not for that, I don't know if I would have enjoyed, horror films or films in general, because I thought it was very well done. And I would also say, like you, as Trixie would say too, with Nev Campbell, but I think horror films are oftentimes, looked down upon when it comes to awards.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in terms of what Alien did, I think it was great. I think it was well directed, well written. I don't know. It's just a film I could watch over and over. I love it. I wish we would have gotten the director's cut or what he really wanted to do in terms of some of the actual death scenes, because he wanted to get graphic and violent. But obviously at the time, what was it, 1979, they weren't going to show some of that stuff. And so that's kind of upsetting because there were some really gnarly death scenes. But it is my absolute favorite. I love Sigourney Weaver. I always wished we would get a new Alien movie because Alien Resurrection was shit. How dare they? But yes, Alien is my favorite. And so because I couldn't see everyone's faces because they were too busy doing stuff. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Ben. And I saw George. He was also quiet. Feel free. Let's debate. Or you can, sit here and say it's not a horror film or you didn't like it. I'm okay with that because I still did.
Totally fair enough. I've only seen Alien once. I do plan on doing it again. I want to buy the Blu-rays. I only saw it on DVD, so I'm going to buy the Blu-rays. I'm going to watch them all again. I definitely remember loving, liked it a lot more than I expected to, the first one and the second one. And then I have no affinity for the rest of them whatsoever.
Agreed.
I didn't mind Prometheus and Alien Covenant. I just liked that they weren't completely ass visually as the rest of them were after Alien 2. Again, visuals can do a lot for me. So I didn't really mind that. But yeah, I really did enjoy Alien. I can't remember. See, it was in like 2017 when I watched these movies. So I can't remember if I was more of an Aliens person or an Alien person. I know that's like a whole thing.
It is, yeah.
Online. I just remember really digging that movie. I need to watch it again. I really, really need to watch it again. And I do plan on doing that. But solid choice for number one. Absolutely.
See, I didn't choose a bad one in Ben's eyes. Who saw that coming?
Oh my God.
Literally nobody.
I know. All right, George, your thoughts?
I would agree. I love Alien. I'd watch that film. I remember watching those films. I was staying at my best friend's house at the time. We were probably like 10, 11. And I remember his dad had the and I was like, oh my God, I've never heard that word, the quadrilogy, as it was at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, what's this word? And he was like, you need to call your mum and see if you're allowed to watch it. I remember calling her and saying, can I watch Alien? She was like, yeah, that's fine. And we did. So Yeah. But by the way, if you're going to become a parent, please let your kids watch horror films. It does help them.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so that aside, yeah. So I remember watching. I really loved Alien. I found it, like you said, I found it really claustrophobic. I loved the sort of. I liked the whole franchise, and I know I'm going to get some hate, but I enjoyed Alien Resurrection.
Okay, listen. I actually I do remember liking that more than any of the rest of them because I had Winona Ryder.
Yeah.
I remember enjoying Alien Resurrection. It was kind of way more entertaining than Alien 3. And it's definitely better than Aliens versus Predator Requiem is one of my least favorite films of all time. I genuinely hated myself and the world while I was watching that movie. Like, I genuinely just wanted it all to end, go into sweet bliss.
I don't disagree with that. The fact that you like it, Alien Resurrection was awful, in my opinion. The only reason I enjoyed it was because Ripley was back. That's it. I mean, Sigourney Weaver has a presence. She's also a 5-time Oscar loser, which kind of pisses me off because she was nominated for Aliens. Not Alien, Aliens.
Aliens, yeah. But no,
it's not fair.
Resurrection, I just, and you know, of all of them, obviously I remember Alien, but in terms of when I'm thinking back to the time I first watched them all, like I think I stayed for the weekend and we watched them all over the weekend. For me, that one was the one, maybe because it was the last one, it was stuck in my mind the most, and obviously I've seen it since then. But I just love the scene in the at the very end where the alien hybrid gets sucked out through the.
We're gonna cut that out because that sounds dirty.
Sucked out through the glass, and I remember thinking wow, this is crazy. And he's like the way it's screaming like mum, and all this. I was like, oh, anyway, but yeah, Alien.
Okay, that was actually heartbreaking. I totally get you on that one. I kind of I feel bad, but I mean, had to go. But yes, Alien, just we all have those movies to where you just remember when you were watching them the first time, whether it be your first movie that but I remember watching it, and from that point on I was like, I love movies. I want to be in movies, or I want to contribute to movies. I never did. I did work at a video store for 6 years growing up, so that was fun. Yes, I'm the Randy. I can't believe it.
Great.
So I won't survive a sequel.
I'm the Sydney, obviously, and Ben's Rose McGowan. So.
Yes, I approve of that. 100%.
Either that or the murderer.
See, if I'm Rose McGowan, then I'm just going to age like fine wine. So I'll take that all day. But now I just truly just respect her because I know what she's been through. She's been through so much horrible things.
Agreed. And she's been very, I think, she's been on the forefront for helping take that down. And so I do. Yeah. I feel for her, but I respect her. And I do just think she makes some problematic comments now. But I do feel for her because she's been through hell. And I loved her as an actress. I loved her in Charmed.
She was great as
I never watched Charmed, but I wanted to watch Charmed because I loved Rose McGowan so much as a kid.
She was.
That's really why I wanted to watch it.
So I like I said, you could be. You know what? With the stuff you say on Twitter, you could be Rose McGowan. I think you are. Yeah.
All day, every day.
Yeah, and I want to be Sidney Prescott in Scream 3, just away from everybody, locked away with a dog and speaking to nobody.
Wasn't that a cute house though, too?
Oh my God. Let me tell you the amount of times I've Googled that house. It's up. I can't even see it on Google Images, on Google Maps, on Street View because it's so far up. So I was like, oh my God, I'm going to build that house and I'm going to live in it. And I'm going to walk around with a speaker in my backpack that plays Sidney Prescott's theme that goes, ooh. Anyway, sorry. We were talking about
Or like 3 variations of Red Right Hand.
Oh, true. Anyway. I think, on that note, let's finish on Sidney Prescott.
Sidney Prescott. We should definitely do Final Girls as an episode.
Oh,
which we're
going to argue so much over that one.
No, I generally agree that I think I need to go through them all in my head. But I think Neve Campbell will probably be my number one.
Yeah.
Again, I need to kind of go through it all in my head. But as of off the top of my head, she would be my number one. Absolutely.
Jennifer Love Hewitt's mine.
Oh,
I know. I tried to say it with a straight face. I'm so sorry. I tried. It's not. Oh God,
Look,
no. She should have died.
I don't know why. It's like she was an okay actress in the film, but her character was just so bland, and Helen was just such a ray of light shining through. And then, I just rewatched I Know What You Did Last Summer, and every time Helen dies, that chasing. It was for me. It was Scary Movie, Scream, and then I Know What You Did Last Summer. That was how I got into horror. And so every time I watch all those movies, they always have a special place in my heart. More
That
Scream
chase
and
scene.
oh my god, best chase scene of all time. It's
I would actually
the Drew
agree.
Barrymore doesn't really count as a chase scene. Like there
No.
is some of it, but for me, I Know What You Did Last Summer is the best chase scene of all time. Unmatched. I was so scared.
Before we leave, then, what are your thoughts on the series coming this year?
I cannot wait to cover it. October's going to be so cool, guys. We have Chucky, Halloween Kills, Last Night in Soho, No Time to Die, Dune, and then we have this fucking I Know What You Did Last Summer TV series. Let's go!
So all of those are great, but Dune is going to be on the council. We're not talking Dune on this show.
Oh yeah, naturally.
Oh, okay, good.
Go subscribe to the council, guys.
Yes,
I mean, the only thing
council.
horrifying about Dune is going to be its box office numbers.
You know, before we wrap up, though, George, where can we see some of our favorite films that we just said?
Well, you can my films that you can see on Netflix, Shudder, Amazon Prime. You can see about all of these great, and don't forget, when you're comfortable and all these new films come out, go and see them in the cinema, because there's nothing better than watching a horror film in a cinema. Some of them, some horror films work at home, but
I'm seeing M. Night Shyamalan's Old tonight, and I'm very excited.
Let me know what it's like, because I'm currently self-isolating. I haven't got COVID, guys. My housemate did. I'm fine, but I really wanted to go and see it, and I'm going to have to wait. And I'm going to do a
Night Shyamalan from all of us. I don't know.
I'm going to go and see that, and then Suicide Squad on July 31st. So,
see, I'm away the weekend it comes out, so I go away on Thursday, and so I have to wait to see that. Oh, it's so frustrating. But look, I'm going to see the Suicide Squad eventually, before all the smelly Americans get to see it. That's for sure. Yeah. My movies, Dr. Sleep, can be found on HBO Max. Watch the director's cut. It's phenomenal. Annihilation is on Netflix. The Silence of the Lambs, Scream, Halloween, and Candyman. I have no idea where you can see those in America. I know Candyman is available on Now TV, Sky Cinema in
and it's available on Netflix as well in the UK. Candyman is, yeah. I saw it. I'm not going to watch that tonight.
Aliens on Prime. Yeah. My Valentine's on Hulu. Yeah. I know you guys don't have Hulu.
I'm trying to remember what mine were on, because I did. Hell House is Shudder and Amazon Prime. What was my number 2? That was number 2. Blair Witch Project, I know, is definitely on Netflix in the UK, but it's probably on Prime as well, somewhere else and everything else. And Scream. Scream's, where's that in America? Because it's on nothing here.
Oh my gosh, that's a good question.
Is it on?
I don't think it's on anything. I think you have to buy it.
No, it's on HBO Max.
I was going to say, is it on HBO Max? Did they not drop
them
all?
It sure as hell is.
Yeah, I thought they did. Okay, well, HBO Max then.
Or you can watch all 4.
Yeah.
I may even watch it tonight.
Or rent them on YouTube and stuff like that. So all these films are everywhere. If you haven't seen them, go and see them. Yeah, buy them.
Don't be a cretin. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't wait for the 4K. I'm going to buy the new 4K as well. I'm very excited for that.
That's going to be so cool. And let us know what your favorite horror films are too.
Yes, tweet us. And, with that is all for today's episode of the Horror Hour. Thank you very much for listening. Join us again next week when we will be discussing and reviewing George's second favorite horror film of all time, Hell House something. Let's see if he's dead ass wrong yet again. He probably is. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Plus, if you haven't already, go follow us on our social media. We are at the Horror Hour TV to keep up with all the latest news. And if you have a question or just want to give your thoughts on next week's topic, you can tweet us using the hashtag the Horror Hour. Once again, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
You have been listening to the Horror Hour. See you next time. And don't forget, you can also follow our YouTube channel, where we will be posting behind the scenes footage, video highlights, and full interviews.